Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of After the License, the podcast where we help real estate agents build their business. I'm your host, Jeff Buettner. As always, if you're listening on the podcast, make sure you check us out on YouTube. And if you're watching on YouTube, just know you can get us basically anywhere you get podcasts. You can listen to these short weekly episodes. Just know that on our YouTube channel, we do have YouTube specific content. We have some YouTube specific trainings. And again, if you're watching on YouTube, you can click into that description and find some YouTube specific offerings like our free course on creating your database and your sphere of influence list. So check that out. Today, we are going to talk about leveraging buyer leads into listing appointments or listing conversations. This is something that has been talked about for a really long time. This is something that people have utilized for a number of years, but I don't think it's talked about enough. I don't think it's always done in the right way. When we talk about generating listing leads, a lot of people say, well, talk to for sale by owners, talk to expired listings, talk to people in a particular neighborhood and tell them, hey, I have buyers, right? Most of you guys have a database or a sphere of influence or a list of leads you're working. I have buyers who are potentially interested in buying something. Why don't we talk about listing your home? Now, I heard an agent talk about this a couple weeks ago and I thought this was really great. A lot of times when real estate agents have that conversation with listing agents or listings or potential listings, they're not actually being 100% genuine when they say they have buyers for that particular house. They might have a list of leads that are looking in a particular city or looking in a particular town or looking in a particular price point, but they don't actually know if that person's interested in buying this house. So what if you could flip the script? What if you could talk to your buyer leads and really provide them top-notch, top-level service? And if you talk to your buyer leads and you said, hey, in a perfect world today, what neighborhood would you be in? What would your price point be? What amenities did you want, right? How close do you want to be to your work? And a lot of times what you'll find is that most buyers have a very particular neighborhood they would love to be in, or they have a particular crossroads that they want to be nearby, or a school they want to be nearby, or a workplace. And maybe you talk to them and you say, hey, if I could find you a house that was listed at X that met these criteria, is that something you'd be interested in writing an offer on now or today or in the next month? And if they say yes, now you're off to the races. Now you can actually go to work for that buyer. And I love this mindset of going to work for that buyer. Now you can actually start to put the work in and reach out to people who live in that particular ideal house. If they live near those crossroads and they're potentially under that price point and they have the amenities that your buyer is looking for, now you have a very genuine reason to reach out and call these people. And you can say, hey, Bob or Susie, I really do have a buyer. They're looking for something in your neighborhood under $500,000. They want a 2-car garage. Your house fits the criteria perfectly. Would you ever consider selling? And you can start to have that conversation. When you change your motivations, and if you change the motivation from, I'm gonna try and get listings, people know that you're just trying to get that listing, especially if it's a for sale by owner, especially if it's an expired listing. But if you really truly have a buyer that's really interested in writing an offer on that particular type of house, that conversation gets changed and gets flipped on its head. And now you're coming from a place of value, not only for the buyer that you're doing work for, but also for that potential listing that you might take or those clients, right? And so think about it that way. If you're struggling with listing leads or listing conversations around listings, look at your buyers and look at the ones that are most serious, or the people in your database or maybe in your lead pool that are most serious, and reach out to them and say, hey, I really want to go to work for you in this crazy market. Let's talk about what your ideal house would look like. And I'm going to start making calls to people in that neighborhood to see if I can find someone to sell for you. I think when you change your mindset and you change your motivation on just those two things, not calling to get the listing, but to call because you're working and putting 1,000% effort into working for your buyer, I think it's going to change the conversation, and it's going to change not only how many positive conversations you have, but how many leads you actually listings you potentially take and how many leads you actually close. Okay, that's all we have for today. If you're watching on YouTube, drop in the comments section, what do you think about that marketing and that lead generation strategy, working for your buyers and turning your buyers into actual listing conversations. And if you're listening on the podcast, make sure to check us out on YouTube. Thanks, guys. We'll catch you next time.